In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, over 60 cases, including 15 murder matters, were down for hearing at the criminal assizes in January 2009. This may seem a very small number, but is a significant percentage in a country that has a population of 10,000. And in 2008, there were 5,654 crimes in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Non-governmental community-based organizations play a vital role in addressing crime and armed violence in society. Women's groups engage the police and social workers in domestic violence intervention and prevention training, since many crimes are committed against women in their homes. Angry partners prefer to shoot, kill, or wound women who wish to leave the abusive environment. The threads of experience of violence and armed violence are similar throughout the region. From November 2008 to April 2009, WINAD undertook a project entitled Empowering Women and Girls to Prevent and Address the Impact of Small Arms and Light Weapons in 10 communities in Trinidad and Tobago. I just want to highlight some of the comments that were made during our conversations with the women across Trinidad and Tobago. They articulated impacts at 4 different levels, but I will just choose 3. In terms of the personal level, they spoke of the fear of going out and returning late, the fear as single mothers of having relationships with men because of incest and because also of possible acts of violence, the experience of being an eyewitness to fatal armed violence, the fear of intervening in situations of violence, the loss of the right to be free, feelings of hopelessness, the disruption of daily routines, the vulnerability of being women, desensitization to the issue, paranoia, and the reality of children becoming orphans. At the level of their households, they noted the need for increased security in homes, which led to an increased and unexpected cost, the reality of becoming prisoners in their own homes, the desire to change residence but the inability to do it, and the need to send their children abroad and away to study. At the community level, they talked about the stigmatization of their communities, the increasing incidence of both young persons and the elderly being forced to lie down on hot pitch during law enforcement initiatives, the decision by persons in the community to remain silent, high-risk communities not being served with simple amenities, the creation of borderlines because of gang conflict, and just isolation of some women within their very communities. At the state level, they talked about political and institutional inability to deal with the issue and the loss of confidence in the capacity of systems to protect victims. One conversation noted the inappropriateness of the education system. We thought this proved to be pointed because it was steeped in the language of the rights of children, which is not a common approach of the community to the needs of the young. The group that stood out for us, though, in these conversations came from the St. Jude's Home for Girls, which is a residential facility for girls who have, many of whom have already been experienced violence or are perpetrators of violence. They identified violence coming from the following sources: from unwanted pregnancies, from what they call parry shots, and that is gang rape, from statutory rape. They also have experienced school violence and have also been perpetrators in that as well. They've also experienced retaliation for just being informers, for talking about what's happening. They spoke about an interesting thing called ranking. Ranking is a way in which young people gain status among their peers and in the communities and how they form hierarchies. Young men are ranked by how gangster, and that's in inverted commas, they are. That is how much they are involved in the drug trade or in gang lifestyles. They're also ranked by the fact that they possess finances. They're ranked by the number of people they have killed. They're ranked by the type of girl that they have, and they refer to it as best girl in their language. Girls are ranked by the level of the gangster boyfriends they have, whether these boyfriends are leaders of gangs, the amount of jewelry they have, and the ranking system is violent. And the young people know that, and they acknowledged it. And they also said that that ranking starts as early as standard 4 in our country, which is between ages 9 to 10 years old. We just have some recommendations or some strategies that we discussed at the regional forum, and I just wish briefly to mention them. We spoke at the level of international policies and gun control there, and we think that it is very essential that at the international level there be serious commitment to the several conventions and the several international instruments, as well as hemispheric and regional instruments, which govern the use of firearms, the control of firearms. We think that it is very necessary that the commitment that has been signed on to, that governments oblige themselves to putting in place and implementing the provisions in their national and domestic legal frameworks. International agencies like the UN, regional hemispheric agencies like Project Plowshares are at the forefront of these kinds of interventions. We think that mainstreaming gender into the discussion on violence helps to create a wider vision of possible solutions. We also believe that context must dictate the approach to gun violence. Approaches cannot just be prescriptive and applied from one country to the next. There must be deep investigation into the circumstances in the country to understand what really needs to be implemented so that the violence can be mitigated. We think that relationship building is key. There are many actors, law enforcement, the state, civil society. We also think of programs to create change, and this is in the realm of education, it's in the realm of cultural activities, it's in the realm of sporting activities, it's in the realm of helping people to exercise their potential for becoming entrepreneurs, legally that is, so that people don't feel incapacitated, people don't feel unable to live the lives that they are meant to live, lives of dignity, lives without fear, freedom. We also look at interventions for youth and for peace-building initiatives because the youth have a different system of dealing with issues, and we're coming to understand very clearly that there perhaps are not rational processes taking place in the minds of our young people, so that it is very easy for them to adopt violent approaches to their situations. Trying to solve the problems of guns and violence in our respective communities and countries, we know is not an easy one. And because the problem didn't happen overnight, it cannot be fixed overnight. Governments have to do more in fighting corruption and in restructuring and repositioning key resources and assets in helping to fight this very serious problem. Governments must also build on the efforts spearheaded by institutions such as the United Nations, UNICEF, and the UNDP, that have both made it clear that increasing the long-term social investment and its accompanying social intervention programs must be part of an effective and sustainable solution to the gun and crime problems. It is also very critical that civil society organizations continue to mobilize and align themselves in a way that will truly make a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Susan Alfonso. Again, another very insightful presentation, and really adding on a number of key dimensions to what Professor Diosaran had focused. And additionally, of course, speaking to the whole question of involvement of civil society, how that vein, if you will, in this process can really help to move the discussion forward on these very, very critical issues. And again, really anticipating more of this kind of discourse when we get into our question and answer period.